Hello there folks, I'm Joey DeAngelis and welcome to Silent Film Saturday episode number 62. This week I am discussing Merian C. Cooper and Ernest B. Schoedsack's 1925 documentary, Grass. This tells the story about 50,000 people leading their livestock to, to grassy lands. However, that's not all this journey encompasses. It encompasses several obstacles, including climbing the rugged peaks of a mountain and going through the rapids. So, let us take a look at this package. This is the Milestone Collection DVD of Grass, the nation's battle for life. It was selected by the Library of Congress National Film Registry, which is a pretty prestigious honor. It means that your film culturally, aesthetically, or historically is significant, and this is pretty significant in its own right. Might not be the greatest film, but let's take a look at this. This is just Milestone's DVD. Open it up. It's a disc. There's no insert. Film is 71 minutes long with a bonus feature with Rudy Belmer having an audio discussion with Merian C. Cooper, probably from back in the 70s, if not before then. So also, this is the back. There's Cooper, Schoedsack, and there's Marguerite Harrison, who is very much into, discovery and all that stuff. And she was with them on the journey, and she appears through, a decent enough more in the film than they are in the movie. They appear in the movie in the very beginning just to introduce themselves, and that's really about it. So this documentary kind of takes the approach of that this culture, that the Bakhtiari culture, isn't changed. They marvel at the fact that how, despite the fact we're in the 20th century, it's still the way it was many years ago. And it's fascinating to see, what this culture is doing and the adventures that they go on, especially when they're climbing, going up the mountain area. The rapids, that stuff's happening for real life. This isn't just a digital effect that's going on. It's whatever's happening in front of the camera is happening in front of the camera as it's happening. And the Cooper and Schoedsack were really fascinated by stuff, especially real life adventure. Another one of their films, which will be the discussion in next week's episode, Chang, is a very similar approach to this, except it had, I believe, if I remember correctly, it had more of a narrative to it. This movie has a narrative. It's just, I feel it was more about, the looking at the people and looking at it through their perspective. And it definitely gives us a good viewpoint of what we were like back then in viewing other cultures and what this culture was like back, in the 1920s when they filmed this. And that is a fascinating account that this film, was made. And apparently it did well enough, I think, to the point where they made Chang, which is kind of like a follow-up film to Grass. And Chang was nominated for an Oscar, if I'm not mistaken. But, this film, like I said, it's just really interesting to see this stuff happen. All the camels and the real people. This isn't just like Hollywood extras working on this movie. These are, people living their lives. And it's so interesting to think that there were documentarians or documentary filmmakers back in the silent days, because when we think of documentaries, you think of things that are on Netflix about killer whales or the public school system, but this is really interesting because this was at a time where, our understanding of different cultures is rather limited, and still sometimes rather limited today. But when you really think about it, it's just it really is a nice time capsule for 1925, because they had such awe and amazement for this group of people, especially back then when a lot of things were much more mysterious. They talk in supplements of the King Kong discs, where talk about how gorillas were really mysterious, and today we know much more about them than we did back then. Back then we thought they were more like King Kong, similar fashion to when we watch Jaws and we think all sharks are like Jaws. But like I said, this is a really fascinating watch. It's not the best movie ever, but it's definitely something you should check out, if you're trying to watch all the National Film Registry films or the films of Cooper Schoedsack. And like I said, next week I'm discussing their film Chang. See you guys next week.